Appreciate it. We're recording, which is good. All right. Welcome. What is up, everybody? We're excited. This is our first webinar. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things. But, before we get into a lot of things that we're going to be talking about, I wanted to share with you the reason that I put this webinar together. Of course, FSU is a program that we created as part of really what people were asking us. So we basically created the encyclopedia, playbook, workflows, everything off of really what was being asked of us on on a daily basis. Of course, with our over 200,000 followers that we have over social media with Hamza Invest, we got a lot of questions. And what this webinar does is it allows me to address those. But even while addressing them, what it allows me to do even better is show you guys. And I think this is what a lot of the gurus don't really, give you the experience of. Okay, we have a few people signing in. We have a few people joining in, which is great. Let me enter full screen really quickly. And let me start sharing my screen. I hope you guys have had a good time. Okay, so I'm just figuring this out, guys. Just give me a second. Share screen. And here you go. This is the webinar. What do I hit? Hit this? This. Okay, perfect. Do I hit present? Like this. Perfect. Okay, so today's topic is extremely specific. I've talked to a lot of people, and it seems like all the feedback I'm getting is from people who are already seasoned, people who are already fairly educated. Most of you have invested in real estate in the past. Most of you are familiar with a lot of things that we're going to talk about, but I'm going to put things into perspective so that we can all kind of understand the journey. We can all understand the process. We can all understand the systems. And then, of course, I'm going to put some numbers in there for you guys to take things, and make things full circle, basically. Okay, hold on. We got more people. All right. As we are letting more and more people come in, this is going to take a second. Okay. I wanted to talk about today's topic is what can you do with 500,000 in 5 years? A comprehensive analysis of wealth with different real estate asset classes. And I want to talk about that for a second. Now, I put 500,000 here because that number is relevant to me. When I first came to the US, I invested, as you guys will see, about $400,000 in a piece of land. And then I started my real estate journey out from there. Now, when I moved here, I had initially come from Dubai. I'm not from Dubai. I had come from there, and I really had a few things that were going on in my mind. And one of those things is that I want to move to the US. I had recently read a book. It was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and I actually got to meet him. And sometimes, they tell you it is better not to meet your heroes in real life. Unfortunately, I got to speak to him, and for a lot of you who may or may not know my love-hate relationship with Robert Kiyosaki, he's the man who kind of brought me to the United States, taught me all about real estate through a book. And then when I met him in person, he couldn't answer simple questions that I had for him. And so, that was a letdown for me, but I got what I wanted at the time. And of course, he, once again, is the reason that I came here to the US. So with that being said, my claim to fame is this $1 to $16 million in 3 years. I put this video on YouTube together a while ago, and I got a lot of feedback. I think this is one of our most viewed YouTube videos that I had put out. And in this video, what I did is I walked you guys through my story. I had an intro. I was in my parking garage in the building that I was living in at the time. I drove to my flex spaces because I really thought that, I really made all this money in flex spaces, and I couldn't believe that not a lot of people were talking about it. At the time, all the hype was about multifamily, and the reasoning behind all the hype in multifamily was, of course, because you could get debt, a monkey could get debt for multifamily at the time. It was that simple. It was all non-recourse. Everybody and their uncles was moving into multifamily. And not to get things mistaken or confused here, I actually made a ton of money in multifamily. A portion of my wealth today is from multifamily. And that is not something that I'm denying. That is something that I am telling you guys that, yes, multifamily paved the way for me to then realize that I wanted to do things with my life. I wanted to do things differently. I wanted to take the time and really understand where I wanted to spend the bulk of my time. So This project, this video was a result of that. And I initially took $1 million. I bought a piece of land. I bought about 12 acres of dirt. It had decent frontage. I had gotten a good offer on it. And what I was seeing is that, you know what, I think development is probably a better route for somebody like me. During this process, while I was doing this $1 to $16 million conversion, I was also aggressively investing in multifamily. And at the time, you know, I had proven the model once, which I'm going to show you guys later on. I'm not going to talk about that. I had proven the model once, but I was not confident that I could redo or, you know, do this a second time. I was not aware with the amount of money that I was making with FlexSpace, and I didn't know if this was a repeatable model, and it was something that I could really use at scale. So I was basically investing in multifamily just like everybody else, but at the same time refining my processes, refining the system, you know, kind of figuring out how I could best work in FlexSpace. It was also an asset class that was extremely untapped at the time. And it was something that I thought was definitely something that I wanted to explore as well. Really quickly. So this is what FlexSpace looks like, just to put a visual for you guys so you guys know what I'm talking about. A FlexSpace is basically a group of FlexSpace Business Park, rather, is basically a group of buildings that are put side by side right next to each other. And this is kind of what they look like right now. Everybody's design, the way people make these is a little different. The way people develop these may be a little different, but in essence, this is what a typical FlexSpace looks like. It'll have a small warehouse. It'll have a small office. 90% of this product will be warehouse, 10% will be office. Now, we have seen businesses in the past that will change the model up a little bit. We have seen businesses in the past that'll have maybe more office than warehouse, maybe 20%, you know, depending on what they need. Some, I've actually seen businesses that have like 70% office and only 30% warehouse. The cool thing about flex spaces is you can really build them the way you like. And they're really convenient and really easy to build out. Now, what you're noticing here is these are all single story product. And believe it or not, this took, or this probably will take about a day to erect. So one day you walk on site, there's literally nothing. The next day you can get on site. And if you have good erectors, you could literally erect 4 or 5, in this case, 5 buildings on the same day. And, you know, you see huge, you really see a lot of progress that is being made when you are developing these. Now, other than that, these are extremely easy to build as far as, you know, city codes, zoning, other aspects, other components of all of this. It's extremely easy to build. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people, in my opinion, and I may be guilty of this, or I used to be guilty of this, is that I wanted to always be a real estate investor, but I never really wanted to be the person dealing with the tenants. And I'm not talking about, you know, putting a layer in between, putting property managers in between, because even when you have property managers, you are still making decisions quite actively in residential real estate. So for sure, this is something, you know, for sure, this is something that bothered me at the time. It was something that I wanted to work around. I didn't want to spend more time managing properties than I was. At some point, you know, we had 1,400 doors all over Texas that we were a part of, and it was really, really hectic, and it was really stressful dealing with all of those flex spaces. Now, before we get into the numbers, the nitty gritty, you know, I want to give you guys a glance of what flex space from a macro level looks like. Now, we are noticing a lot of institutional equity moving into flex space. We're seeing a lot of action around flex space. In fact, if you go to social media, right, places like TikTok, places like Instagram, and you type flex space, you will today see much larger volume in content being created around flex spaces, primarily by me, but also other influencers that are creating this, you know, creating this content around flex space, and kind of, you know, figuring out that this may be the next, you know, the next big thing, the next disruption, if you will, in real estate. I put some numbers here for you guys to take things into perspective. When you develop a flex space ground up, of course, there's processes, there's strategies. We talk about this all the time with our members. average annual returns, and this includes cash flow plus appreciation, is roughly around 32%. And if you are building these in 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, however quickly you can get that done, you need to realize that, you know, the returns on your investment are significantly high. Once you take that into perspective and you have the mindset that, you know what, I'm not going to do a value add deal. I'm not going to jump into something where, you know, there's a lot of unknowns, even though I've done due diligence. Now, look, guys, I used to be a multifamily investor. So I used to be a syndicator. I ran a fund. It was a significantly large fund. And I faced challenges all the time with value add real estate. And now, the other thing I want to tell you guys is everybody who did multifamily or does single family or whatever they do is always looking for that term, the value add term. This is something that is now no longer in my vocabulary. And the reason for that is because now we are building product ground up. This has become more of a legacy type investment. I do not mind holding on to flex spaces for a little longer, just because, you know, they are in their prime in the first 10 to 15 years. They don't really have any issues. And the type of businesses that we are seeing coming into flex spaces are evolving literally on a daily basis. Occupancy here, or vacancy rate rather, is what they put here, is 4.9%. What I can tell you personally is that if I could have this number at a negative, like a negative 20%, I would put a negative 20%. But unfortunately, we have to go by the industry data that we have been given, right? Not everybody is following the flex space on tap model. Not everybody has a waiting list on their flex space developments like I do. Not everybody is taking action. One more thing I would like to add here is that our vacancy rates not only are zero, we have a waiting list and we have a strategy around that. We do not rely on realtors. We do not rely on brokers. I'm going to discuss that in just a second. But we do everything ourselves. And believe it or not, when I say we do everything ourselves, it is not me who is involved in that process. We've built this little ecosystem that allows me to do whatever I want, whenever I want, while maintaining 100% occupancy. Deal duration typically on a flex space is 2 years. Ideally, you want to be in the 18 to 24 months range when you are looking at flex spaces. And the reason for that is you want to be quick. You want to be able to build all of that equity once you are building it. And in 2 years, try to start stabilizing the asset. So 9 to 12 months for your permitting, planning, zoning. Hopefully you get, utilities, connections, impact. All of that should take you about 9 to 12 months, and then another 9 to 12 months of construction. Hopefully, if you did it really well, you got it done in 18 months. You now have a few months to stabilize the asset within that 2-year period. Now, of course, as things are getting more difficult, meaning logistically, things are slowing down a little bit. We are seeing these timelines now go from 2 years to about 2 years and 4 months to 2 years and 6 months. And that is across the board, just because we have shortages in material, we have equipment that's not reaching our site on time, whatever the reasoning may be. We are seeing that timeline extend a little bit. But I do think that moving forward, because of course, while everyone else was suffering during COVID and kind of was at a standstill, what we were doing is we were actually expanding because of the demand that was being created. And for that, we noticed a delay. Now, that is, of course, going to stabilize moving forward. We're going to get those timelines down. Like I showed you in the image previously, flex spaces are extremely easy to develop, and that is why we kind of do that. And finally, we have our last component at a glance, which is development efforts. This is a key component of why I got into flex space. I felt like I was making more money with these type of developments with much less effort. And I argue with multifamily guys all the time about this, that the effort is really what changed everything for me. It wasn't about the money. Over here, I want to share something with you guys. It's a really cool story. It's a really cool type of tenant. I want to show you guys and give you guys a visual on what I am seeing in the industry. I think this is really cool. So this is a tenant of mine. And as you can see here on the left, Houston, we have a party, is in a flex space. Before she joined me, okay, before she came into my flex space and rented from me and did all that, she operated out of a U-Haul bus. You see that pink bus? That's actually a U-Haul bus. She wrapped it up. She was able to wrap it up because she was able to expand her business, grow it to where she wanted it to grow. And this girl, I want to say she was between probably 19 to like 25 years old. used to operate her entire business with all her equipment, with everything that she had out of that U-Haul van, which is now wrapped in pink. You will often see this U-Haul van busy, zipping around the city of Houston. She's rushing to events. She's overbooked because, of course, she has 61.9K followers. Now, I'm assuming this number has gone up since we took that shot. But my point is that this girl now has a place to store her equipment. She also has a place to host events if she chose to. I remember when she came in, she was so excited. She painted all the floors white. She put this glossy material on top. And it was weird because I was like, are you really going to host events in a flex space? And believe it or not, every time I drive by her location, two things happen. Either the van is not there, which means she's on site, working at a party, at an event, or she's actually hosting events at her flex space. And it's really cool because these type of businesses did not exist just a few years ago. They were literally nowhere to be found. In fact, I don't even know what type of businesses are going to exist 5 to 10 years from. New businesses are going to exist from 5 to 10 years from now. I don't know what that's going to look like, what that landscape is going to look like. I do think that businesses like these are the businesses that are going to thrive because they have the social media presence, and businesses that require these flex spaces. In fact, let me give you guys another example. I don't have a visual, but I have another really good example for you, and I want to share that really quickly. So the other example I have is I had a tenant come to me and lease one of my spaces and decide that they wanted to make a podcast studio. I think a podcast studio is a really cool idea. I myself am hosting a podcast very soon once my office is complete, hopefully in the next 30 days. But I do think that the business idea was really cool. So when I asked them, I was like, hey, what are you guys going to do in your space? So they're like, we're basically going to have these sets. And there's going to be like 5 or 6 sets that we're going to create. They're going to look different. And people can come and host podcasts. We offer the videos. We offer the audio. We get the mics. People don't have to invest thousands of dollars. And believe me, it's a very expensive process because I myself so far, just on the equipment, have spent over $20,000 just preparing for my podcast. And so what I'm seeing now is a lot of people, younger people, new disruptive businesses, technologically advanced businesses, businesses that rely on either, something that they're completely online or something, that does not require a retail pricing, now move into these flex spaces. It's extremely exciting. I myself personally am building an office right now. I'm super frustrated because I was not able to move into my office, and my next office I have decided is going to be a flex space. So we're looking for a 20,000 square footer building. Well, we're looking for the land where we're going to put 20,000 square feet because we need that much. I'm going to put my car collection in there. I'm going to have my school in there. I'm going to run my industrial real estate fund from my flex space. And that is my ultimate goal. Industry trends. Okay, let's go and talk about what is going on in the market right now, what we are seeing, and how the landscape has changed because of the past few years. The industrial real estate market is hot. Like everywhere you talk to, everyone you talk to, everywhere you go, you are not going to find vacant flex space. It just doesn't exist. In fact, I just drove recently to one of my job sites. There was a new flex space that was being constructed. I hadn't been there in a while. We drove there. I took my team there, and we were surprised. The project literally was fully leased out before it was completed. It was absolutely insane and beautiful at the same time. And the reason for that is it's just unbelievable. You can't get retail rented out that quick. Tenants won't be able to move. There's a build out, period. And now, like with people like me as well, we have things where we have shortage in material. Our permits are getting more and more difficult day by day. So it's getting more and more frustrating for us to now move into these type of flex space, these type of retail or office type settings. We want to be in flex spaces. We want to be able to boom and turn on the light switch and start working. And more of these businesses are actually doing that. So quickly over here on the left, I have the net absorption and vacancy charts. And what you can see is as vacancy drops, okay, absorption is at all-time high, or was at all-time high during the pandemic. What I want you guys to understand is that these trends are just beginning. More and more people are getting used to dealing with businesses online. This is a trend that is going to continuously change, evolve, become better. My kids at some point are going to be people who are just behind screens ordering stuff online. I don't think they have the aspiration, the will to actually drive somewhere, go get something done if they could get it online. In fact, Not only that, we are seeing this in the upcoming generations that they just want to order stuff online. Things like Amazon are moving, things like Etsy are moving. I for sure know for my house, I have at least one Amazon package or one Etsy package or one whatever package it is on my doorstep every single day. And I know for a fact, for those of you guys who have families, who have families, who have kids, you guys go through the same process, right? My kids don't want to try on shoes anymore in the store. They actually just know what their size is. They want to order, and then 6 months down the line, they're just going to order a half size bigger. And that is how they have continued to evolve and order all of these things online. In fact, ordering online may be advantageous to them because they can get custom work done. Like I know for a fact that my kids do a little bit of custom work, that their the shoe manufacturer does for online orders only, because that is something that they can do. So my kids are taking advantage of it. They like it. They, the shoes are a little custom, and that's what kids these days are into. On the right, we have a chart that's really amazing that has changed the game. And I think this is really when I started noticing this trend. And this is really when I started preaching that flex space is where it's at. On the right, you can see flex space rent growth. And I put the chart, and the chart is, of course, as of January 6th, this chart has changed significantly since then to the higher. But unfortunately, all the data that you find on the internet is always going to be lagged. This is significantly higher. Rents have gone up not only closer to 7%, we are probably now over 15 to 20% in rent increases in flex space. And I can tell you this firsthand, just because, of the flex spaces that we operate and we build around the country. Rental prices are through the roof. In fact, once again, in some locations, we are seeing rent comps for flex spaces, for new, well-designed flex spaces, get very close to retail, as a lot of retail people are realizing that, maybe retail is not the best for us because we need to have a warehouse, we need to do all of these things, we need to deal with all of these different situations. So in fact, they themselves are realizing this and coming to us and saying, hey, we would rather pay a little more and kind of figure this out and have the entire business on one end. Now, unlike all the other gurus, right? My goal here is to educate you guys on flex space and show you guys what I am doing and actually prove to you why flex space is a better deal for everyone. On the left, this is when I came to this country. I bought a multifamily property. And this is actually a settlement statement of that. So I'm showing you guys a settlement statement of a multifamily deal that I bought. And I was very proud of it, by the way. This is an extreme achievement for me. Or was an extreme achievement for me until I realized what legacy investing is really all about. Okay, so I bought this property 2015. I came to this country, remember, December of 2013. I started processing immigration. I started dealing with things, talking to investors, doing my thing. And I finally ended up buying a deal. As you can see on the left, it says $802,000. Now, this deal, to buy this deal, I had to go through a lot to just be able to find a deal that I thought, was making money. I had to really do my due diligence. I had to make sure that the property matched certain criteria. Remember, I was new in the country. I didn't really know too much about it, but I did the best I could, and I thought I got a good deal, as a lot of people do, right? I bought this deal for $800,000. Let's assume I put $300,000 down. Okay, I put $300,000. Total closing cost here is $800,000. Reasonable down payment. Nothing out of the ordinary. I probably put an additional $150,000 in rehab work. I made the property look nice. I started, increasing the rents, typical things that multifamily operators go through, typical situation. And so I was probably all said and done in this one deal. Let's just say I was in it for $900,000, right? I bought it for $800,000, put $100,000. This was back in 2015. And then I was excited. I was on fire. I was like, all right, I'm operating this deal. I'm dealing with these tenants. It was a 24 unit multifamily deal. At that time, it wasn't worth. I couldn't afford putting a property management company because I didn't trust anyone. And I couldn't afford hiring somebody full time because the numbers wouldn't work. If I had hired somebody full time, they would have eaten all the revenue and I would have made no cash flow. Well, I learned the hard way that I wasn't going to make any cash flow either, because every month, without fail, things would go wrong and AC would go, Houston's hot. AC would go out. Gas line is not working. My stove is not operating. I need this issue resolved right now. My apartment flooded because a pipe burst or something happened. My kid broke the window. I need you to replace it. Well, I was like, well, it's your kid. Why do you want me to replace the window? Either way, my point is that I was so involved in the process that I genuinely believe, all said and done, I probably didn't take too much money home from that deal. So the day June, or rather, yes, June 11th, 2018 is when I got an offer, and I was like, you know what? This is the best offer I'm going to get on this deal. I'm in this deal for 900. I got offered 1.25 or something like that, 1.23, as you guys can see right here. And then I ended up netting, after all the fees, all the commission, whatever it was, I took home about 1.152 on my multifamily deal. Now, remember, I was in it for 900, probably put about 300 to 400 in it, took away, based on the numbers here, about 250 back home. In my opinion, that was the worst 250,000 today. Like, of course, in the past, I was like, oh, wow, I made 250. If I calculate my ROI based off of, if I calculated my ROI based off of cash on cash, I'm still like making double digits. It looks really nice. Of course, the amount is small. I had just gotten started. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I did good. Like, I had people in the multifamily space guiding me, walking me through the process, and then, you know, showing me what they were doing, and I would make decisions based off of that, like what type of carpet, what type of this, what type of AC are you getting, who are your vendors? Of course, I was very involved because this was something that I thought would be the future. This was something that I really thought, genuinely deep down inside in my heart, I thought that I was going to pursue for a very long time. So here, 900 to 1.152 in a multifamily deal. Next, I want to show you guys FlexSpace, and this is a legit case study. This is my deal. It's the same tract. This deal I ended up 1031ing it into another deal. For those of you guys who don't know what a 1031 exchange is, it is basically a way for you to defer your taxes, reinvest your proceeds into another piece of real estate, which is why over here, if you notice, it says 1031 exchange facility, because that's where the money went. But let's go on the purchase side. So on the purchase side, I keep, you know, I always thought that I paid $390,000 or similar for this property. I don't know where that number came from, but that's the number that stuck in my head. But as you guys see, I paid a little more than that. It's 465. I had to pay net 423 out of pocket after my earnest money and whatnot was deposited. So I spent about $420,000 buying this piece of land. Now, I don't know if it says how many acres it is, although it should here on the title. But it doesn't. But anyways, this property at the time was 3.7 acres. I was driving around all over Houston using my gridding mechanism, which is what we call it now. It was basically a mechanism where I grid the entire zip code, like we go in all directions, horizontal and vertical, street by street. And then we kind of reach out to every landlord. So this was before PropStream. This was before all the technology was available. This was me basically scraping the data, trying to find out where I could find the best piece of land. And this is the process that I use. I actually recommend that people today, if you are looking for land, I promise you, if you start using the gridding process, you will find land that is attractive, because there are often parcels right outside your city, 30 to 40 minutes outside your city, where you can find land with signs that are not listed online. So it definitely works. It has helped me tremendously. I contact signs that I see on a daily basis and while I'm driving by them, and I feel like they're not listed online, just to get information. Even if I'm not interested in buying, I just want information. I want to learn. I want to be proactive. I want to see where the market is going. I want to understand what people are asking. Why are you asking this much? Your neighbor is asking this much. Why do you think your land is better or worse? I want to genuinely understand what the psychology of people selling is, because once I understand the reasoning, I can then use that to my advantage and kind of make a deal work somehow, right? So my process is still very much the gridding process. I like to have conversations with actual people. I don't like sending stuff in the mail to engage people. I have ways where I can get their contact information and try to have a conversation with them. So bought this for $420,000 and sold the very same piece of property for $6.1 million. Now, how crazy is that? You buy something for 420 or whatever, 450,000, and then you sell it for $6.1 million. Now, this did take a little longer than that multifamily flip. As you guys can see, I bought this in 2014, sold it in January of 2019. So I consider that a 2018 close for me, okay? So that took me 4 years to do. And the way I was able to do it is the cool part. A lot of people, okay, a lot of people come in and think, well, I don't have enough money. Perfect. That's exactly the type, that's exactly the type of mindset you need to have. Well, I know nothing about construction. Perfect. That's exactly the type of mindset you need to have, because that's exactly the mindset that I had. Well, I don't know if I can find tenants. That's absolutely beautiful, because we now have a process where we can walk you through exactly how you are able to find tenants and get your flex spaces occupied. In fact, you may not even need to use that, because industry standards are telling you that occupancy is at like 95%. By the time you probably get that built, if it's in the right location, if you're getting the right drive-by traffic, if it's in the next to the right neighborhoods, right, that thing is going to occupy itself. You don't really need to worry about occupancy. Of course, our added strategies add to that, but that is not something that I think too many people should be stressed about at this point in time. Now, 6.1 million was the sale price. Obviously, I had debt. I had other things that I had to pay off. My take home after $420,000 was $2.7 million, $2.8 million, which is absolutely phenomenal. This is insane. This number is unheard of with this type of investment. And I often talk to multifamily people, and they'll come at me and they'll be like, yeah, well, we make this much, we made that much. What if I told you that I put probably 1/10 the effort into making this deal, and I didn't have to deal with designers, and I didn't have to deal with multiple crews, and I didn't have to deal with roof guys, and I didn't have to deal with countertops. I did not have to deal with backsplashes, right? All that thing helps me, because I can then focus on moving on to the next deal. So from $420,000 to roughly around $2.8 million. And this is the closing statement. The addresses are on there. You can actually fact check this. Not that you have to. Now, the other thing, multifamily. Okay, now this is serious, guys. A lot of people don't talk about this. In fact, all multifamily operators have been through this. I can guarantee you 100% that if you own a multifamily portfolio over $100, that these are things that you have to 100% deal with. And this is, I think, a turning point for me. This is when my life really changed and my eyes really opened up to what type of investor do I want to be? Do I want to be the guy who is dealing with concerns around my property? Do I want to be called a real estate investor that is not empathetic towards their tenants because I may have done something wrong that didn't, align with what my tenants, wanted? Do I want to be the person whose apartment complex catches on fire through no fault of my own? By the way, this is something that has happened to me multiple times. I had a situation where one of my tenants OD'd, left the left the stove on for 17 hours. 17 hours, guys. The stove was running, ended up burning half a building of mine. And the problem is that a lot of people will come at you and say, yeah, well, you have insurance. Yes, absolutely, we have insurance. That is what insurance is for. However, just the dealing with that, the effort that I had to put into that, the follow-ups that went into that. You guys think that dealing with insurance is easy, which I can tell you firsthand, it is absolutely not. You guys are fighting for your life to get every dollar out just so that you can get these units occupied and leased back up. And that process took me about a year to get done. There's another article here. Some residents left without home after fire, in West Chase, Houston. Man shot several times. Now I can tell you once again, once your portfolio becomes large enough, these are all issues that you will have. And it doesn't really matter what class of, it doesn't really matter what class of apartment complexes you own. All people have these types of issues. And you are dealing with these people. You are giving them safe haven in your properties. You are allowing them to live there. And you really, at the end of the day, even though you verify, even though you might do a background, even though you do these type of things, you really don't know the type of issues that are going to come up. And this final article here was really something that went deep down in my heart. Toddler shot. I can tell you, unfortunately, this is something that impacted me the most. This was the final draw for me. This was when I realized that this is not the type of real estate investor that I want to be. Luckily, I did not have a toddler that was shot in my apartment community. However, I did have an issue where we had an instance that a toddler was heavily impacted by a situation, by their parents. I guess the parents were divorcing, whatever it was. There was a huge issue and a toddler was involved. Of course, I don't want to get into that right now, but it was something that really deeply impacted me and told me that, you know what, there has to be a better way. There has to be an easier way. And that is the way that I am going to move forward and look at. Over here, I put together, you know, after that presentation, after that slide, this one's a little hard, but I'm gonna try to get into it. Wholesaling, home flipping, multifamily, flex space. I've got the bulk of you here. If you guys are in this room today, I am going to talk about all of you right now. And I know that you guys will resonate. I've been there. I've done that. I'm investing over $30 million cash in flex space. Okay. I'm going to build a portfolio with my investors that is going to be $1 billion in flex space all around the country. Now, the reason for that is it is something that I truly believe in. And I think it is the type of real estate investor that I want to be. Okay, so covering wholesale. Okay, wholesalers do great. They get in, they're usually younger. You know, they start looking for deals. They start looking at properties. They start working. And the problem here is that they consistently need to work. They need to put in the effort. They need to put in the time. They need to put in the energy to find these deals. And more often than not, and I know that the media or the social media talks about wholesaling. And I'll tell you why that is, why there are all these wholesaling gurus in the market. It's because it is a low barrier to entry for the guru, not for you, for the guru. It is an easy sell for them to get you guys involved so that you guys can start wholesaling. But guess who is making the money at the end of it? The guru is actually the person who is making the bulk of the money when you are involved in a wholesaling climate. You're constantly looking for deals. Here, average wholesaler makes about $50,000 in 3 years. The amount of effort here that I've shown, this bar right here is the effort bar that I've shown. And the amount of effort that you have to put into wholesaling, guess what? It's aggressive, man. I mean, I know I put it low to medium. I probably should have put it medium to high, but the amount of effort that you have to put as a wholesaler, it's a lot of effort, and you're not building a legacy. Eventually, the day you stop wholesaling is the day you stop making money, the day everything stops moving. If something were to happen to you, you have a family, you have kids, whatever it is, you are responsible for other people's needs. Wholesaling is not the way. Next, what I've done is I've talked about home flippers. Now, home flippers stop where the home flippers start where the wholesalers end, and they take over this task where they go in, they start repairing roofs, they start building better interiors, they start putting in more and more into the home to make it go up in value. Well, guess what? That was good. You had a good run. I'm very proud of you. You know, you may have done a little bit of money here and there. I personally know people who have wholesaled like 10 homes and ended up walking away with like $20,000 a home. That's $200,000, right? I know wholesalers who have flipped 10 homes. Some were winners, some were losers, right? Depending on what their loan situation was, depending on how quickly they could move the inventory. It's intense. It is a stressful environment to be. You're probably a one or a two-man show. You're wholesaling consistently. In fact, the bulk of our memberships come from wholesalers, believe it or not. The bulk. Most people who hear about flex space real estate investing are wholesalers. And they're like, you know what? We're tired. We're done. We know we can't make money consistently on every deal. And there's too many unknowns. Like the last time a wholesaler walks into a deal, does all their due diligence. In most cases, they don't do due diligence because they buy sight unseen, or they buy things that are, in auction, which is as is, where is. So in a lot of cases, people just don't know what they're getting into. Okay, some people end up making money that way. Some people don't. I mean, it is what it is, right? That is why. And that is when I think the multifamily craze started to really take off. Now, multifamily, there's a few things. Multifamily is changing. Everybody's saying multifamily is changing. And when I say everybody, you can literally look it up on TikTok today, right? That's how fast you can make these moves. Multifamily is changing. You type in multifamily, the real multifamily operators are going to tell you, yeah, it's changing. Well, why is it changing is what you have to understand. The reason multifamily was super hot to begin with is because the debt structure was extremely simple. It was easy to get a loan. If you had half a brain and, a little bit of like background, you could get a loan for multifamily through Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae directly, right? You had to show a little bit of operating skills, but the issue here, and this is what I'm trying to get at, is that you lived an extremely high stress life. You were over leveraged. You lived high stress life. Managing tenants at a large capacity has always been problematic. You should be expected to be in the news because things are going to happen in your apartment complex. If you are a developer, okay, so I'm talking about existing multifamily. Now, let me talk about if you were a developer. If you're a developer, get used to delayed scheduling. So if the project was supposed to take 2 years, get used to 3, or get used to 3.5. Get used to having multiple crews not show up. So the tile guy didn't show up when he had to. The carpet guy didn't show up when he had to. The countertop guy didn't show when he had to. The paint guy painted half the units and left because he didn't know what was going on. The managers who are the project managers, took a little bit of time off, moved on, whatever happened. It is an extremely high stress life. And this is not the life that I signed up for. When I want to be a real estate investor, number one, for me today, I don't want to deal with my tenants. And I don't mean I don't want to deal with my tenants like a property manager is going to call me and tell me, hey, this tenant did this, what do we do? Or, hey, this tenant did this, we took this action. It may not be in line with what I would have done, right? Hey, this tenant's kid put 20 cars in the toilet, and that is kind of the thing that I don't want to do. And I'm telling you this firsthand. This happened to me. Tenant calls me frustrated. Well, calls my manager frustrated. This toilet is a piece of crap. This toilet doesn't work. It doesn't flush. It doesn't do. It doesn't. Made it feel like I am the one who installed the damn toilet in her bathroom, right? Made it feel like I was the person who was in charge of that. I literally called my manager and said, look, this tenant is super frustrated. I don't want her causing a panic. I don't want bad reviews. I don't want this issue. Could you please go take a look at what's going on? Hired a person over market value to come and take a look at the toilet. Open the toilet seat, the bowl, just to find like 20 Matchbox car. What are they called? Hot wheel cars inside the toilet. And then she looks at me and she's like, well, I didn't know he did that. Well, I understand, but that is not the type of tenant, or that is not the type of situation that I signed up for when I decided I want to become a multi-million dollar real estate investor. That is just not the situation that I want to be in. Now, could I hire a property management company and have them deal with this? Yeah, it's going to cost me. My returns are going to be significantly lower. Most people get this part confused. They think that hiring a property management company means that you only pay this little fees. No. That's not how it works. Property manager is only going to do what is convenient. So if things need to be replaced, they're going to get, if things could have been salvaged and do not need to be replaced, they're going to replace them. So instead of fixing a problem for $20, you're going to fix it for $200. And that, in fact, goes on your bottom line. And that is something that you need to be mindful of. And finally, we get into flex space. So flex space is when I saw the light. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is this easy. Build brand new product. Find a piece of land, took a stool, sat in front of my piece of land on the stool. And I was like, man, you know what? I think I can develop those flex spaces. I think it's extremely easy. I think the process is really where I will enjoy, this real estate asset for a very long time. Returns, phenomenal. Like I showed you guys, this is a legacy piece of investment. But the best part about all of this is just the amount of effort that I had to put in. I put in low. If I could go any lower than that, or if my team allowed me to put it any lower than that, I would, because look at me. I mean, I'm living my life. I'm at home, I'm chilling, I'm hanging out. I have 2 offices that are under construction. I have enough time to do whatever I want, wherever I want, and spend time with my wife and kids. That is the type of real estate investor I want to be. These asset classes are brand new. There's literally nothing that can go wrong in them. And I'm going to show you that in a second. So now talking about that, what is driving the demand moving forward? Because I know a lot of you are numbers people and a lot of you like the data. So I'm going to give you guys the data and tell you guys what is driving the demand. Where are we seeing the demand in our flex spaces? Hamza, who are your tenants? Where are they coming from? What are they doing, right? So these are 2 charts that I thought were extremely important, and then we'll get into the bullet points. The first chart I want to show you is e-commerce. Now, we mentioned this earlier, that e-commerce is a growing industry. It's going to continue to grow. More and more people are going to get involved. More and more people are going to figure out ways to sell things online. More and more people are going to order because of the amount of advertising that is going on around e-commerce. It's just going to continue to grow. It's a snowball effect. And before you know it, I know this only goes to 2025, but imagine 2030, 2050. It's a snowball effect. This is going to grow significantly and become the next big thing. Flex space is directly impacted by this news because guess what? When you have people selling candles, they're not selling them out of their garage. They're actually buying all the raw material, storing it in their flex spaces, building them in-house, a luxury candle maker, and then selling them online. And I've seen this. I've seen this firsthand, with a tenant of ours who literally builds candles for a living and sells them online. That's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. It's a new business that I never thought existed, but it does. And then here in the bottom, you have the cash rate index. Now, this index talks to you about how expensive it is becoming to move stuff around, how expensive it is to move stuff around the US or move stuff around the world. And things are getting more and more expensive, meaning businesses are now becoming more and more efficient because if things are getting more expensive to move around, they need to consolidate. They need to be in a location where they're seeing their office, where they're managing their operations. They no longer feel this need to be in two separate locations. And this is also a major driver for that. Also, okay, as things become more and more expensive, guess what's needed in between? They need more stores. They need more places to be able to store these things because the supply chain is just not where it needs to be in the market. So we have e-commerce, that's number one, which I already talked about. And then we have transportation costs, which is number two. Transportation costs, all-time high. I anticipate this number to drop a little bit. But that doesn't mean that the supply chain is going to get back to where it needs to be, which means there's going to be more storage that is required. Also, you have a lot of businesses right now that are holding inventory, and that inventory needs to go somewhere because it's not going to move for a very long time. You have people like Walmart, people like Target complaining about, we over-ordered. Well, guess what happens to that inventory? It's sold at a discount to people who buy those box pallets. And those people who buy box pallets, guess where they rent? They're all tenants in flex spaces. I have multiple tenants that do that for a living. They buy the refund pallets or pallets just from Home Depot, Target, or Walmart, whatever the stores are, they buy those and they operate them out of flex spaces. Number three here, we have product awareness. So flex spaces are not a new concept. Wherever you drive, now that we've talked about them, now that I've kind of given you a visual, now that I've showed you what flex spaces are, you will drive by these real estate properties and you will notice that these things are fully occupied and they're running. They're running and they're running hard. People like me are bringing more awareness to flex spaces because we do feel like the market is really untapped. It's a niche where people need to get involved. We need to start building more. The demand for industrial is increasing, but the demand for flex space is significantly higher than that of industrial. And then number four, finally, we have new types of businesses. So these new types of businesses, like I mentioned to you earlier, we have influencers, we have car guys, we have people who are doing, the beer draft houses. We have just unique businesses that are coming into these flex spaces, and they will continue to come in these flex spaces over the next couple of years, which is the best part. Finally, okay, so this is a picture of me on the right, and this is me when I first came to this country. Now, I didn't have as much money as I do today. And as you can see, I'm wearing a three-piece suit. I was ambitious. I was ready. I was hustling. I was ready to make a move and start building these flex spaces. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is that if somebody like me was able to come into this country, figure out how to build these flex spaces, actually do what everybody's talking about, you guys are all here because you guys are all doers as well. If I can do it, a person from the outside can come and do it. I really believe that this is possible. This is something that anybody can do. By the way, the picture on the bottom is a real development of that 3.7 acres that we had closed for $6.1 million. This was my first development. This is what it looked like. It was a learning curve for me. Since then, I have evolved. I have improved. My designs have evolved. My designs have improved. We are continuously evolving because now we've realized that we can actually compete with much higher asset classes, as in like the taller asset classes, because people are now preferring to literally get out of their car, walk into a flex space rather than get into an elevator or fight for parking for 20 minutes in a metro dense area, then take an elevator another 20 minutes and then get to the office. This is absolutely a game changer when it comes to operating your business in a more efficient manner. Now, not that I've talked about flex space and I've already told you guys why it's the best, but here we have a slide that says, but wait, Hamza, there's a recession. And that is true. There is a recession. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to talk about? How are things going to impact us in a recession? And to that, I will let you know the first asset class that falls during a recession, okay, is actually non-income producing real estate. So land, right? So you have an opportunity right now to start looking for land. You have an opportunity right now to start exploring. I'm not telling you to buy anything, but I am telling you that this is the opportunity. This is when you start, you know, kind of getting access to the brokers who don't have that much business because everybody else is not really looking for real estate. In the past, just to get access to that broker, you would have to have done at least 3 or 4 times the amount of work. Whereas today, if you just send them an email or if you just call them directly on their office, chances are they will pick up because their business has slowed down. There is no denying that. The other part is flex spaces, specifically flex spaces, have an inverse effect in recessions. And I'm going to tell you about that in just a second. I'm going to give you guys a story real quick before we do that. In 2016, Houston went through a massive recession, massive, like unbelievable, because oil and gas prices dropped. And for those of you who are from Houston or around the area or know anything about oil and gas, you know exactly what I'm talking about. At the time, we were hiring, we were growing. Our company was, you know, we were going through some growth spurts, and we were getting like top line executives to come and fill entry-level positions at my business. And I was like really confused as to why that was happening. And then I realized that there were massive layoffs in Houston, Texas. You had companies that were laying off thousands of people in Houston, Texas. And at the time, I also noticed that we were getting a lot of leads for our flex spaces, a lot of companies downsizing. And I'm talking big names. Like this was the first time when we were seeing big names come into our flex space like area. Because usually you get mom and pop businesses, maybe a little mid-tier businesses, but I'm talking like big companies looking to downsize. And I was really surprised. And at the time, I was fully occupied, so I couldn't really take advantage. They were actually willing to pay me more than what my existing tenants were paying me because they were downsizing from 40, 50,000 square footer buildings to like 10, 12,000 square feet buildings. So they didn't mind paying a little more just to be able to park their stuff. And it was mainly at the time vehicles or equipment that they needed to park in these flex spaces. So what that did for me and what that made me realize is that that put pressure on my tenants, because I would tell my tenants, hey, if you want to vacate, I got a tenant, you know, it's a bigger tenant. And they'd be like, no, we're just going to stay. And so that made all my tenants aware that if they were to move out, they probably would not be coming back in and I would get more money. So that added pressure to my existing tenants, and they continued to pay rent, you know, just to make sure that they were in a good spot. And that, by the way, went on for a good year and a half here in Houston, Texas. You know, so once again, why are flex spaces recession proof? Change of business expectations. So, you know, like I covered, businesses will change their expectations based on where they need to go and what is most efficient for them. With flex spaces, they have flexible lease terms, which is something that they like. You know, we sign 2 to 5 year lease terms as opposed to 10 or 20-year leases. We also cater to a lot of businesses that are downsizing. We also cater to a lot of businesses that are upsizing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you have people who've been operating out of their garages. We have a lot of these blind companies and these window companies that operate out of their garages. They need to upscale. You know, they're doing good. They've had a good run. They want to grow. So their expectations of the business have changed right now. So what's happening is we cater to both ends. People who are moving outside of their home garage, we are the first line of business for them because, you know, our flex spaces on average are 1,500 to 3,000 square feet, right? If they're taking a portion of that building. On the other hand, you have businesses that are downsizing, and those businesses are coming into our flex spaces because they no longer need larger spaces and larger product, right? Number 2 is e-commerce. E-commerce will continue to grow, as I told you guys. This is something that is just growing. It's a snowball effect. And a lot of our tenants are coming in from e-com businesses as well. It is number 3, quickest and most efficient way for your business to get started. I'm telling you this firsthand. I'm going through a build-out process. It's taken me 8 months to do that. These tenants don't want to waste their time. They literally want to move into a space that is ready with an office, a bathroom, a warehouse, and they want to start their business and get it rolling tomorrow. And in a lot of cases, I have actually noticed that. I've noticed that tenants are moving into their spaces and starting business in like within 2 weeks, getting their permits, getting everything done, and starting business in 2 weeks. It's absolutely phenomenal to see. The bottom line, what am I getting at? Industrial real estate is in high demand. We all know that. You guys can drive around your neighborhoods and see these flex spaces really shine. The type of businesses that are moving in them are consistently changing. They're all new. And so the demand is going to continue to be at extreme highs. Flex space, once again, is, in my opinion, recession proof, because I did see this once before. I have experienced this. You can also look at all the data from previous recessions and see how flex space has fared, just to know how recession proof this asset class is. You have lower operations with higher ROI. And what I mean by that is, not only are your costs lower, but for me, the way I look at ROI is I look at my mental ROI as well. Because I'm not putting as much effort, because I'm not putting as much time, my ROI today is spending time with my wife and kids, doing the things, once again, that I enjoy in life. If I want to do something, I want to be able to do it without worrying that one of my tenants is going to, forget their stove on fire for 17 hours and light a building of mine on fire. When I used to be in the multifamily space, this was something that was constantly in my mind, like which one of my properties is going to get damaged, drunk drivers hitting buildings, other petty crimes that happen in the property. These are just things that I today completely am not involved in, I'm not a part of. And it is an extremely pleasurable experience to be called a real estate investor. And finally, anyone can do it. Like I told you guys earlier, guys, if I can do it, somebody who came from like literally nowhere and make it here in Houston, Texas, or wherever you are in the country, anybody, in my opinion, can do this. So now is the time to make a move. Now is the time to get things done. And of course, finally, if you want to learn more, there are many ways you can do that. Many ways. You can check out my blog. It's completely free. I put out a lot of knowledge. I take a lot of time. I invest a lot of my energy in creating the perfect blog for you guys so that you guys can go through my content. It's on my website. This is going to be sent out to you. So you guys will have the domain, but you can look it up at hamzainvests.com/blogs. You read all those blogs. I promise you it's knowledge. And you guys will be excited, just like I am. Look, I'm extremely passionate about flex spaces. I'm extremely passionate about getting this ball rolling. And I promise you, if you guys read those blogs, you will be too. You can also take a picture of this QR code right now, and you can subscribe to my newsletter. The newsletter is filled with important, valuable information. And the newsletter, by the way, is live, meaning I update it as much as I can. I talk about relevant topics. I talk about things that need to be discussed to people who have subscribed to the newsletter. So definitely take a picture of that QR code and get involved. And finally, if you want to become a flex space developer, so you've tried it all, you've been in my shoes, you understand the pains that I went through emotionally and dealing with other asset classes and the hustle, and you are now ready to make a move, take a picture of this QR code, fill out this interest form. I promise you that you can do it, and this is the time to make a move. The best time to invest in real estate, if you asked me 10 years from today, I would have told you is today. And you guys in the back of your mind know that that is absolutely the case. I have regretted every deal that I had not invested in 10 years ago. And I can tell you that with 100% certainty. So now is the time to get started. Fill out the interest form. Someone from my team will reach out to you. And they will walk you through what our process is. And with that, guys, it was great talking to you. Good night. Take care. And I will see you guys on the other side, hopefully.